and Pharmaceuticals in association with Higher Secondary Principals Forum.
Good day, students. I am teacher Fermina of Father Agnel Higher Secondary, presenting before you the second book of political science, namely Politics in India since Independence. And I will be taking up the first chapter, that is Challenges of Nation Building. In this chapter, we are going to concentrate on four main areas. The first will be the three challenges faced by India immediately after independence. Then we know that freedom came through partition. We will be discussing about partition and displacement. The third subtopic will be about integration of princely states, and will end up with the reorganization of boundaries. So let's get started. On the midnight of 15th August 1947, India attained independence, and our first Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru of Free India hoisted the national flag at the Red Fort, and he addressed the large gathering of people which you can see around. That was the speech which is known to all of us as the Tryst with Destiny speech. This was the moment India had been waiting for. Our national leaders had plans for independent India, that we will be having a lot of goals, or we decided to go upon a kind of democratic government. That was one of the wish of our leaders. So the goals were to have a democratic government and to have the government for the good of the people. But India got independence in a very sorry circumstances, because freedom came through partition. Therefore, the year 1947 was a year of trauma of partition, displacement, and in this condition, India had to go ahead with its challenges, which we are going to take up as three challenges of nation building. So let's get started with the three challenges. The first challenge before independent India was to shape a nation that was united yet accommodative of diversity in our society. Now, what do you mean by this? You can look at this picture. The map tells you about the country. India was a united country. It had a lot of diversity. That means people of speaking different languages, following different cultures, following different religion, all lived together as one. But there were some people who used to often say that a country with so much of diversity, how will it be able to remain united? And after partition, it looked like what they said was going to come true. Therefore, it was a big challenge for us to see that we shape a nation and we keep the people united. So this was the first and the most immediate challenge before independent India, to shape the nation and to see that people of different religion, cultures, languages live together as one. The second challenge before us was to establish a democratic form of government. Now, India had already had a dream that once we become independent, we will follow a democratic form of government. Our constitution was already framed, but we were already given the rights, there were fundamental rights given, people were given the methodology of how to go for right to vote, but these things had to be put to practice, and that was possible only if you had to establish a democracy. And this was the second important challenge before independent India. The third challenge before independent India was to ensure the development and well-being of the entire society. India, after becoming independent, its economy had been totally disrupted because of partition and because of the British rule over India. So we needed to rebuild our country, to rebuild our economy, and therefore, the third challenge was to ensure the development and the well-being of the entire society. Now, how these three challenges are going to be accomplished, that was a big question mark, and will India be able to successfully go forward and do this? Was India in a condition to go and fulfill these challenges was a big question. So, in this book, Politics in India Since Independence, we will be discussing how each challenge was successfully been fulfilled by our country. And I will be taking up the first challenge, that is to shape the nation, and this chapter or this lesson is about how the first challenge was successfully formed or successfully fulfilled. So, we have already taken the first part, that is the three challenges of nation building, and students, please keep in mind, as you have been listening, please see that you note down whatever points we have been putting up. Now, we go to the next part, partition, displacement and rehabilitation. 14th, 15th August 1947, two nations were born. It was not only one country got independence, but two nations were born. One was India and the other one was Pakistan. Now, this was possible because of the two-nation theory put forward by the Muslim League. Now, in India, there were two political parties when the Britishers were ruling, Indian National Congress and the Muslim League. And it was the Muslim League under the leadership of Muhammad Ali Jinnah which proposed the two-nation theory. Now, initially the Indian National Congress was against the two-nation theory, but later on, because of political riots and because of distractions, they had to give in, and to make it worse, it was the British government who encouraged this, because as it is, you know, Britishers never ever thought good about India. They always thought that India should be divided. So, this is how the two-nation theory came into existence, and on the basis of this two-nation theory, it was decided to divide the people into two on the basis of religion, because India was a land more of Hindus and Muslims. So, it was decided that all those who are Hindus will be a part of India and Muslims will be a part of Pakistan. Now, how to divide them, how to demarcate the country was a big task. So, in this subtopic, we are going to discuss about the difficulties involved in the process of partition. Now, the first difficulty, as I told you, they said let us divide the country on the basis of religious majority. Now, when you plan to divide the country on the religious majority, you have to see which area has the majority of Muslims, and that area was supposed to be called as Pakistan. So, in the whole of India, there was no such area where there is only one belt where Muslim people were majority. So, therefore, it said no single belt of Muslim majority area in British India, meaning everywhere Hindus and Muslims were scattered. Therefore, it was decided that they will find the areas which has a majority of Muslim, and it was found that the majority were in the east and the west of India. So, they finally decided that we will make East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So, Pakistan was made up of two parts, East and West, and the remaining stretch was called as India. The second difficulty was not all Muslim areas wanted to be in Pakistan. Like there were some people who were not in favor of joining a new country. They never wanted a division of India. And there is a beautiful example of this person called as Khan Abdul Gaffar Khan. He was the leader of the Northwestern Frontier Province, also known as Frontier Gandhi, because he followed Gandhian principles. He was a peace-loving person, and he never wanted that India should be divided. So, he was strongly opposed to the two-nation theory, but alas, his voice was not heard. Even Northwest Frontier Province was involved in or put into Pakistan, and this is how the second difficulty involved, where people were not in favor. The third one was the two provinces of Punjab and Bengal. This was supposed to be the areas where both Muslims and Hindus were in a majority, or you can say non-Muslims were in a majority. Now these two provinces were not told till the last moment whether they are a part of India or they are a part of Pakistan. They were told only on the 15th of August midnight when we became independent. Almost around 12 o'clock India became independent. By 3 they were told that they are a different part. They had to, meaning they came to know which country they belong to now, and at that moment they had to move out. Those who were not in that particular area which they had to belong, they had to cross the areas and go to the respective country to which they belonged. And the timing was given by 9, they had to pack up and they have to move through the trains which were there, a few trains which were there. So this was the 2 provinces which suffered the most, Punjab and Bengal. The fourth difficulty was the minorities. You know, very soon, once independence was declared, those people who remained behind, they became minorities in their own land. Say for example, the Hindus remain on the side of the Pakistan area, they found that they are a minority, they are no longer to be there, and they had to move within no time. So those people suffered the most, because as soon as independence were declared, people forgot who they are. You know, the neighbors forgot one another. They began to target the minorities, and this way the problem of the minorities was too very bad. They went to immense suffering, and they the ones who suffered the most. So these are the 4 difficulties which were involved in the process of partition. This is a very important question which might also come for examination. So please remember what are the difficulties which India faced in the process of partition, and also make a mention of Khan Abdul Gaffar Khan, which might also be asked for you during the examinations. Now let us go to the consequences of partition. Consequences means effects, what happens after partition. The first consequence, the year 1947 was the year of one of the largest, most abrupt, unplanned and tragic transfer of population that human history has known. Now look at the words, largest, most abrupt. What is the meaning of abrupt? Suddenly you are pulled from this place and told, move out from here. That was what happened to people. They were suddenly told that they are no longer a part of this country, they have to move to the next border. So this was the condition which happened, that was such a tragic. That's why it is said the year 1947 was the year of one of the largest, most abrupt, unplanned, no planning, nobody knew what would happen, and tragic transfer. Why we say tragic transfer? Because those who were not ready to move, those people were like those who were moving, they were crossing the border, so many of them got killed, because as soon as as soon as independence was declared, they no longer had any sympathy for one another, and this was what had happened. So the year 1947 was the year of the largest, most abrupt, unplanned and tragic transfer of population that human history has ever known. There were killing and atrocities on both the sides of the border. As I told you, once independence was declared, each one began to recognize themselves on the basis of religion, and anybody of the other religion was naturally, when they found him, they killed him. So there were a lot of killings and atrocities on both the sides of the border. In the name of religion, people of one community ruthlessly killed and maimed people of other community. Religion is a very sensitive issue, and people at once forget about their nature, their humanity when it comes to religion. So within no time there was ruthless killing. They killed the people and maimed. What is the meaning of maiming? Maiming is to cut them. So just cut their legs, cut their body, meaning this is how there was so much of destruction which took place. Cities like Lahore, Amritsar, Calcutta became divided into communal zones. Communal zones meaning they just were like religion, meaning they believed in their religion. The other person of the other religion is not allowed in this states or in these places. If anybody of the other religion was there, he would be attacked. So this is how cities like Lahore, Amritsar, Calcutta became divided into communal zones. Forced to abandon their homes and move across borders, people went through immense suffering. Suddenly people are told to leave their homes. Like I told you, early morning at 3 you are told to just leave your home, pack your bag and move out. With what are you going to move? And you have to cross the borders. And as they were crossing the borders, there were no transport for them. They went through immense sufferings. Minorities on both the sides of the border fled their home and often secured temporary shelter in refugee camps. Now, those who were minorities, suppose in the side of India, the Muslims remain, they are the minorities. So, they don't have a house anymore. Before, they had been staying there for years together, but today they are a minority, they don't have a place to stay. So, these people had to look out for shelter, and they got shelter mostly refugee camps, meaning there were some places which were opened up for them where they had to stay there. Some remained there in the refugee camps for months or sometimes even for years. People traveled to the other side of the new border through all sorts of means, often by foot. People had to cross the border. Suppose this is Pakistan. If Hindus are remaining there, they had to move from here to the India border, because otherwise they would be attacked over here. So, they had to move out, and how they will move? Most of them moved by foot because there was no vehicle, nothing was available. A few trains which were there, they had already left. So, they had to often walk, and the walking was mostly in the night time, because if they had to walk in the day, they would have been also attacked. Thousands of women were abducted. As the people or the group of family were walking on the road, many a time the women, young ladies were attacked, and they were often raped or they were kidnapped, and the kidnapper forced them into marriage. So, it was very dangerous to go, or for the families to take their ladies and to walk on the roadside even at night. So, this is what the condition happened, and therefore, in many cases women were killed by their own family members to preserve the family honor. So, to save the woman, to save the girl child from being attacked or from being kidnapped or supposed to be raped by the other person, what the father of the daughters did, he killed his own daughters. Many a times the girls were forced to jump in the well, otherwise they would have been attacked by the other religious people, and they would have been raped or they would have been forced to get married. So, the best way to protect themselves, what the parents felt, was to either kill them, to throw them in the well, or just to cut them. So, some incidences we read in the YouTube, you will find out there are instances where the parents, the father chopped off their daughters, or sometimes they were even thrown into the well. That is called as honor killing. Many children were separated from their parents. The condition was such that they did not know what to do. They had some parents, they just managed to take their children, put them in the railway compartment and send them across the border, but those who remained behind. So, many children were separated, because it so happened that the parents always think good about their children. So, they put the children in the train which was leaving to crossing the border, and sometimes the parents could not enter, so the parents remained behind. And we do not know what happened for the ones who crossed the border, because the children were so small, they reached the other side, whereas the parents remained behind. So, there were so many things which happened, so many conditions wherein the life of people had become traumatic. Writers, poets and filmmakers have described the sufferings, displacement and violence in their novels. There are a lot of novels, there are a lot of poems written during those times, and also there are a lot of movies. There are movies on partition. When you get time, please watch a few movies on partition, and you will come to know about what are the sufferings the people really went through during partition. Partition has been described by the survivors as a division of hearts. Those who have lived to tell the story of partition, those who have seen the partition, they have spoken about it as a division of hearts, meaning that it was like hearts being torn apart. I have been living in this country for years together, and suddenly with the partition, I am just torn away from my family, from my home, from everything, and therefore it has been described as the division of hearts. Partition divided everything. It was not just human being were partitioned. The partition also was a division of all the things, assets, instruments, even the government employees, chairs, tables, everything got partitioned. Partition forced about 80 lakh people to migrate across the borders, which we will not be aware about. 80 lakh is not a small number. 80 lakhs people had to migrate across the new border, and in between that about 5 to 10 lakh people were killed in the partition. So, in fact, it was a very, very traumatic situation. So, I am going to show you here a few glimpses of the partition period, just to see what exactly was partition like. Now, here in this pic you can see how the people are crossing, they are moving to their border. What are the things they have with them? They just, some of them with bullock carts, some of them are walking, and you can see this is in the early morning they are walking. Nothing to carry much, whatever is there they are moving along with it. Here you can see the train. I told you there were a few trains which were there waiting for the people to cross the border. You see the trains, look at that, how much they are packed up with people. There is no place for the people to sit. And just imagine how many people must have been inside the train and how many people must have remained behind. Therefore, I told you children got separated from their parents, because children must have been put in that train compartment by their parents, and the parents would have not been able to go. Old parents, grandparents must have remained behind. These were the conditions. Here you can see those people who remained. What was the condition? There was fire, there was killing, atrocities, burning. Very, very sad condition of partition. You can see here how people are walking with whatever they can. They are just walking, crossing the border. So, in fact, this is what is the traumatic condition which we have experienced as the consequences of partition. I hope you will understand this, and I also would like you to watch, if you have time, please watch a few movies on partition so that you understand what exactly the trauma our people suffered during this time. Okay, we have already finished the second subtopic of partition, and now let us take up the next subtopic, integration of princely state. Now, British India, when the Britishers were in India, to make their rule easy, they had divided India into two, that is the British Indian provinces and the princely states. Now, British Indian provinces were directly under the control of the British government, and princely states, you must have heard that in India there were a lot of princes. About 565 states were ruled by princes. So, what the Britishers did, they allowed the princesses to continue their rule, but the authority over the princes was of the British crown. So, that is what we say, the princes enjoy control over the internal affair, but accepted the suzerainty or the authority of the British crown. So, this is how they were going on. Now, when the time came for the Britishers to leave India, that is before independence, the Britishers announced to the princely states that our rule in India is coming to an end and we are going to leave, and now we are no longer going to be your masters. So, now you are free to join either India or Pakistan, or you can remain independent. So, 565 princely states in India were free now to join either India or Pakistan or to remain independent. Now, here the problem started. As soon as this message was given, rulers one after the other started coming out with their desire, and each one said that they want to remain independent. The first was the ruler of Travancore, who said that I don't want to join India nor Pakistan, but I want to be independent. Then was followed the Nizam of Hyderabad, who also wanted to remain independent. Then came the Nawab of Bhopal, who also wanted to remain independent. So, now this was going to be a problem if everybody of 565 states, if all of them say that we want to remain independent, then India will be cut into small pieces. We will not have a country. Therefore, the government had to do something. So, the interim government, the government which was formed for the time being under the leadership of Prime Minister Nehru, took a very strong determination or took a very strong position. And at that time, we had the Home Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister, and the Home Minister were Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. Now, this person was one of the most understanding and a very persuading person who was very smart and very intelligent. He played a very historic role in getting all these princely states towards the Indian Union. How? He went personally to the princely states, managed to persuade them and made them sign an agreement called as the Instrument of Accession. I want to note down this. It is called as the instrument of accession. Once that agreement was signed, naturally that state became a part of India. So, the role of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel is to be remarkably, you have to acknowledge it, because it is because of his efforts we were able to get as many states as possible into the Indian Union. So, by 15th of August 1947, the instrument of accession was signed by most of the princely states except for a few, and the few were Junagadh, Hyderabad, Kashmir and Manipur. Now, Junagadh, later on they were given the option, the people were asked, there was a option available. Sardar Patel had put an option that it is not the ruler who will decide, it is the people who will be given the autonomy to ask whether they want to be a part of India or a part of Pakistan. So, when the plebiscite, that is public opinion, was taken in Junagadh, the people of Junagadh supported to be a part of India. So, Junagadh's problem was solved, it was a part of India. Now remain the states Hyderabad, Kashmir and Manipur. So, let us see what happens in Hyderabad. Now, Hyderabad at that time was one of the largest princely state, comprising of today's Maharashtra, Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh. The leader was called as the Nizam. He was the world's richest man. And this Nizam, he did not want to join either India or Pakistan, but he wanted to remain independent. So, he signed an agreement, and that agreement is called as the standstill agreement with India. That means I am not going to shake my position, I will remain the way I am. But unfortunately, it so happened that the people of Hyderabad were not in favor of the Nizam, especially the poor people, the peasants, the women. They were not happy with his rule because he was very oppressive. So, the peasants of Telangana, suddenly these people, they gathered force, they raised a protest against the Nizam. And this protest was supported by the Communist Party of Hyderabad, and the Hyderabad Congress along with women in a big number came to protest against the Nizam. Now, when the Nizam saw this, that his people are protesting against him, he was almost raged. So, he unleashed, he just left his paramilitary force, the most powerful army which he had with him. It is called as the Razakars. And this Razakars, they don't have any, they don't know what is the, they are like ruthless people. They were just let go on the people, and this Razakars were allowed to do whatever they wanted, to destroy, to kill, to maim, whatever they could do. And the Razakars just ended up, looting, killing people, maiming. Maiming is cutting their legs, feet, and had different atrocities upon the women. They raped the women, especially the non-Muslims, and a big number. So, the government of India at once responded back, sent the Indian army to control this, and the Indian army at once attacked the Nizam's forces, and the Nizam was made to surrender. And with his surrendering, Hyderabad came into India. So, this is how Hyderabad also became a part of India. Now comes the next. Now, you can see the picture of the Razakars. This is the army of the Hyderabad army, the most ruthless army, which really brought about a lot of trauma in the life of the people there. Now, we go to the next, that is Manipur. Now, Manipur was ruled by a Maharaja called as the Maharaja Bodh Chandra Singh. He signed the instrument of accession with Indian government under the assurance. Now, the Indian government had given them assurance. Those of you who want to join can join freely by signing the instrument of accession, and those who want to continue to have their rule or to continue with their government also are free to join India, and they will be given their own autonomy. They will be given power to rule their own country. So, with that guarantee, Raja Bodh Chandra Singh signed the instrument of accession. Now, when Raja Bodh Chandra Singh signed the instrument of accession, the people of Manipur, they decided to have election. They wanted to have their own government. So, for the first time, elections were held in Manipur, and the constitution, that is the state became a constitutional monarchy in June 1948. Manipur's first part, this was the first part of India which had held elections on the basis of universal adult franchise. Now, what is the meaning of universal adult franchise? All those who are 18 years and above have the right to vote. So, first time in India, elections were held in Manipur and a legislative council was formed. Now, the Maharaja Manipur was still not a part, it was not a state of India, it was just a part. So, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel slowly influenced Maharaja Bodh Chandra Singh to sign the merger agreement. The merger agreement means once you sign the agreement, Manipur becomes a part of India. Now, the Legislative Assembly was not in favor of this merger agreement, but somehow without the people's knowledge, Maharaja Bodh Chandra Singh signed the agreement. And after this agreement was signed, automatically Manipur became a part of India. And when the people came to know about this, they had a strong hatred towards the Maharaja, which till today there is a resentment for the Maharaja for being a part of India, because Manipur never wanted to be a part of or a state of India. So, here we see that all the princely states were a part of the Indian Union, and this is what is called as the integration of princely states. So, here we come to an end of the integration of princely rule, through which 565 princely states were there, and slowly one by one each one of them came in the side of the Indian Union. This is the third subtopic completed. Okay, now we are going to start with the last subtopic, reorganization of states. Now, the process of nation building did not come to an end with partition and integration of princely states. Now, the challenge was to draw the internal boundaries of the Indian states. Now, during the colonial rule, that is when the British were ruling over India, state boundaries were drawn according to their convenience. As I told you, they had divided India on the basis of their rule, that is British provinces and the princely states. This was not acceptable to our national leaders, and they had rejected it, saying that the division was artificial, and they had promised that once India becomes independence, they are going to follow the division on the basis of language or linguistic principle. Now, after India became independent, our leaders decided to postpone the matter because of the partition. There was already trauma, the people's sentiments were already hurt. So, they thought that if we go to divide or draw internal boundaries on the basis of religion, it might lead to more problems. But then the people were interested in having boundaries drawn on the basis of language, and this decision of the national leaders was challenged by the local leaders, and the first protest took place in the Telugu speaking areas of old Madras, that is Tamil Nadu today. It was made up of Andhra Pradesh, Kerala and Karnataka. So, this people of Andhra Pradesh, the Telugu speaking people who were a part of Madras, they wanted a state for the Telugu speaking people. So, a movement took place, and that movement is known as the Vishal Andhra movement, demanding for a separate state for the Telugu speaking people. Now, this movement was supported by the leader called as Poti Sri Ramulu. He was a Congress leader and a veteran Gandhi, a devotee of Gandhi who followed Gandhian principles. He was a non-violent person, and to put forward the demand of Andhra, he went on an indefinite strike, hunger strike or a fast for about 56 days without eating anything. And in the course of that time, the government did not pay heed to his demand, and in that course he died by fasting. So with his death, there was a lot of uproar in the area. People were almost very angry. There was violence, riots which took place, a lot of outbursts in Andhra Pradesh, Andhra region, sorry, not Andhra Pradesh, Andhra region where the Telugu speaking people were there. In Madras, several legislators, they resigned in protest because they found that the government had not done anything to look into their demands. And with this condition which was becoming or growing out of hand, finally the Prime Minister announced the formation of a separate state for the Telugu speaking people, and Andhra state was formed. In the year 1952, December 1952, the first state on the basis of language was Andhra Pradesh. Now, the other states, the other people also began to have similar demands. So finally, the government had to take up a decision to see that the demands of the people also are satisfied, and therefore a state reorganization commission was formed in the year 1953. And this state reorganization commission studied the people's problems, went through and found out about their grievances, and finally they came out with a report in which it led to the creation of 14 states and 6 union territories. So this is how internal boundaries, new states were carved into India by the State Reorganization Commission. And thus the challenge comes to the fore. The first challenge of shaping a nation was successfully accomplished. It was believed that India, with so many people of different religion, different culture, different languages, will not be able to live together. But today we can proudly say that we are living in unity. That is, India is a map which shows unity in diversity. And we are proud to say that we are a country with diversity of religion, culture and languages. So with this, we come to the end of the topic, and I hope you have understood this chapter. A big thank you to all of you, and let me wind up. Nice to be able to present this lecture with the help of Prudent Media. Thanks a lot.
Prudent Scholars, powered by Lupin Pharmaceuticals.